Alright, this is going to be a how-to for the MegaDough promo flyers, which are smaller than the brochures we do for them. And these are basically to sell them on doing a full brochure. These take almost as long as a full brochure to do, even though there's only 4 items on them, because one of those items is the clear bottle. So we'll just jump right into it. I always save the file first, and I just save them to downloads because we're going to vectorize everything. The only time I would move this somewhere else, I think I said in the other video, is if it's not going to be vectorized. You need to hang on to the image in the folder for this team or school. So speaking of that folder, we need to go make it. It's for the Argonaut Mustangs under MegaDough. I'll double check that name just to see. Yes, we've already done them before. And it wasn't all that long ago. I think I'll just go ahead and move all this to the Z old, because we're gonna have to redo these files anyways. But it's probably a good idea to hang on to the old ones just in case we do need them. For the Z links, I'm going to go ahead and trash all of this, because these are old file sizes we don't even use anymore, so they wouldn't be of any use. Sorry for that. Oh, whoops. I don't know why I kept clicking that. Something's going on with the files. Sometimes the best way, if that happens, is to cut and I'll just paste them in the old just to move them out of there. The file system's really janky sometimes. Oh, see, there it goes. I don't know what it is. I guess for now we'll just leave it. It bothers me to leave it in there. Now on the try file, because there is already one, what I do instead of opening the, well, you know what? Let's pull that. Let's look at what they want for the background. They did not pick a background, but the old one is one that's very complicated to edit, so I'm actually not going to reuse their old template. I want to just delete these, but just in case, I guess let's move them to the old folder. For some reason, it doesn't want to move that one. I don't understand why it thinks it's open, but we'll just have to save over it later. You get used to all the little quirks of this system. I'm going to use a previous file that's an SWB try. You know what? I should probably not do it this way because I don't want to confuse anybody. The true template for the SWB try is under new templates, PDF flats, and then it's SWB try. That name is just an old school name. I need to clear that off of there. But this is just, a starter template. They're all going to have the same layout for the try, so that's why I've just reused files that I've previously opened and then I save a new name. But now that we've got the template open, I usually immediately go ahead and save it as the new file name. Whoops. In the try folder. Actually, real quick, you generally want to make your folders for everything you're going to be creating. I do them all at the start so they're in there. You could do it when you get to it, but that's just, so I added the SWB20 in there because we're going to make that after we make this. And the school name. So now once we I don't have to worry about accidentally saving over the template. That's why I went ahead and did that. Um, we saved the school logos, and they had already said in the email just pick one and use it out of these four. Um, and I like the one facing left, so I'll just pick that one. I'm gonna vectorize all of it and then just delete. Well, you know what? This is gonna be complicated. I could either try to edit it in Photoshop, or I'll just probably just crop it in here. So this is an example of when, because if I were to vectorize it as it is, it's going to have some problems because of the black that weaves in and out. It won't be an easy fix. It's going to be time consuming because I have to pen tool around it. Normally I would try to suggest finding a shortcut around this, but honestly, even if I try to go into Photoshop, it's going to be the same problem. So I think I'll just pen tool it. This is a good example of logos that look okay to a rep, but actually are time consuming for us, and they don't understand or know that. It's hard to explain to them why this would be a bad logo, but I guess through this video I can show you and them why this will be time consuming, because they'll be able to see what it takes to get a good logo out of this. If it were outlined properly, we could just delete the black, and it would, work easily. But what we want is a black outline, and we're gonna have to pen tool around so that we can get the effect we want. I'm trying to decide how thick this border should be. And honestly, doing one click at a time and curving it like this would take, I guess I'll do it. There's ways around that. Even I could have pen tooled with a blocky, method like this and smooth that. Let me turn this off. We'll see what happens. I'll just do it the slightly quicker way. If I had my physical pen device, my stylus, I could do this with the curves and it would be like this. I can do that rapidly with the physical pen stylus, but doing it with a mouse that isn't very high resolution is this is gonna take all day. So, and if we're swamped with stuff, which I am getting backed up on work, this is a huge waste of time, but it's the only way to get a remotely, decent looking logo. And I know the school and the reps see this black and white logo and it looks fine, but they don't understand how the outline of it, how this works. But let's just try to quickly do this. I'm gonna, even though this is not perfect all the way around, I'm gonna end up trying to smooth it at the end, if I can remember where that menu is. So I'm not too worried about perfection here. I'm just basically trying to get a black border. The Alt key is what you use to edit the handles. I'm assuming you already know all this, but for a training video for someone else, it'd be nice. I'm just adding that, so they know. I think I accidentally clicked off my path. Yep. See if we can get back. Yeah, there we go. This doesn't take absolutely forever, but it's, a huge time. If we had to do this on every logo, it'd be a time waster for sure. Oh, There's no handle over there. Let's see if we can. Huh. I messed up. There it is. So roughly, we're gonna have a border now. I just need to divide it, which is in the Pathfinder. Now we can delete that outer black, and there's some leftover junk over here. So let's see if there's any other extras. Nope. Okay, so all I want to do now. Oh, you know what? I should have smoothed it beforehand. Let's go back. See if I can. There we go. Under object, I believe it's under path and simplify. We can kind of smooth this shape. Let's see what angle. I've already forgotten exactly what the parameters do. I was hoping to smooth those corners out, but it doesn't look like that will work. Yeah, so kind of out of luck there. I may have to leave it. Yeah, I don't want to waste a whole lot of time fidgeting. So, what could I do to quickly? There's no quick solution. In this case, due to the amount of time I've already spent on it, I'm just gonna leave those points, and when I add a drop shadow, hopefully it kind of, I mean, they don't even look that bad. It's a personal preference. It's just bothering me. And the border's not 100%, even all the way around, but I honestly don't mind that. It has like a slightly 3D look, so I'll just leave it alone. So now we've got a drop shadow, and I'm gonna shrink it down. Whoops. I want to make sure, okay, it's all grouped together, yeah. So, go ahead and change the font to the Argonauts, or sorry, the Mustangs, so it needs to say Go Mustangs. When I said I just mean the side banner. Which usually will say Go and then the team name, unless sometimes they do specify something else. And the font that I kind of default to is a modern kind of sports team style font called NCAA Michigan something. It's a team name. That one, we probably need to make sure all the computers have the same fonts. But this is also something where it's a personal preference unless they specify. Whoops, my screen's freaking out on me. I think it's auto saving. Sometimes my Illustrator does whatever this is, and my computer's extremely slow, so I don't know what is going on. There's usually a pop-up up here that says something about memory. Looks like it's done, whatever it was doing. So yeah, the font selection on this side, unless they specify, it's kind of up to you. I usually pick something that's athletic or college style. We have a few fonts like that, so you can kind of do what you want there. On the colors, it says green and gold. Secondary color is black. There's no green in their logo, so I have no. Usually they give us their colors. We have no clue what shade of green they want. So this is one of those where it's irritating because it could get sent back. But I'm just, instead of sending the email to them and saying, hey, do they have the shade of green? and then waiting all day to get it back, and then the file's late and I'm backed up on work. Let's just pick a green and we'll send it, and if they don't like it, we'll have to redo it anyway. So, you know, sometimes to save time, you just gotta run with things like this, because it would actually be more time consuming to go back and forth with a rep and the third party, you know, the customer. It's easier to just go ahead and do it and see what happens. um, Even if you wasted some time, it's actually still less time than going back and forth through emails. Uh, so the logo, the background, I pulled the color for the banner from the Argonaut using the I key, which is the eyedropper. You just select what you want to change the color of and then eyedropper it. So I matched the banner to the logo, and they usually want the team name under the logo, so I think I will put Mustangs using that same font that I used before. Although that is kind of weird because they've got the other font here, but we don't know what that font is. It looks like a simple one. I guess, let me see if I think there's an athletic one that's kind of a simplified athletic. No, that's not it. Let's see, it's under athletic and something, I believe. New athletic. So that's pretty close. It's still not the same, but I guess for now, so that it kind of matches that, we'll go ahead with that route. It looks like theirs is thinner and more vertical, so maybe if I stretch this up, and I'll go ahead and let it be larger so that their team name stands out a bit. And I might even copy the color. If I center this with the logo, it's going to look off center, so I'm actually going to center it with their font, and there's no grid for that since it's part of the logo, so I'm just kind of winging that, bringing it to the front. Oh, for some reason it's not coming to the front. Where is this in the layers? Oh my goodness, I forgot. The template has terrible layers, so that's something I actually need to fix. It's got a bunch of old junk layers from someone's editing. That might be another reason I opened the previous files like I did. I need to clean this up big time. I don't even use the template anymore. That's why I never notice it. So let's drag this into layer 4 for now. I just need to get the layers right. All I wanted is Mustangs above that. That's a huge issue. I'll fix that at some point. So we want a black stroke around the logo, or the font, I mean, to match the logos. It looks like there's maybe a different shade of black. I'll have to... And like I said, this video is more for other employees when we aren't available, because I know you're either going to know better ways to do these things, or you'll just already know how to do the basic stuff. So it's more for future situations than just, you know, us. But it hopefully, if you did need to know anything, it's just in here to have. I'm gonna take the shadow off of this so I can group these and then add the shadow back. So that they don't... I didn't want it to do a weird overlay of the Mustangs in the other logo. This one, it's janky, I'm not gonna lie. They usually come out better than this, and I can see that it's not quite centered. This is a quick and dirty one, obviously. When we get real busy, everything's a quick and dirty one. I mean, it'll be fine. The thing is, the reps and the schools don't really see, if this is off 1 millimeter, they don't notice or care even. They just want, they basically just want the school's logo on a background and they want some color, and this is satisfactory to them. So the little offsets, like the text being 1 millimeter off, those really only bother a designer. They're not going to be even noticed by anyone else. So it's really up to your time restraint and you personally how much you want to do. But if we're behind, I would advise not worrying about a 1 millimeter difference, in a positioning or anything. And even this stroke, I could spend an hour fixing it up, but there's when there's not time, that's a huge waste because no one's gonna care how this looks fine to them. So I tend to just, as long as everything's lined up decently, they're a-okay with it. So perfectionism is only if you got time for it, is what I'm saying. And I'll go ahead and save over the file. And when they go to print these on the SWB Try, the PDFs that they use are totally different format than the what we're going to do for the Clear Try. So it's one of those things where we need to, like, I'll show you the difference, but what for now, I go ahead and save them because we've already got the file ready. It would be a waste to sit here and close the file, and then when it gets approved, come back and open it. They tell us to do that, to wait. But if I wait, it's just like I've got the file open now, so it takes 3 seconds to save this down, so I should do it now instead of having to hunt for the file later. So the first PDF you save, it needs to have the die line crop mark, which is a layer, and it's in the layers, but it's open. So you save it as the name with die line in a PDF, and when you save it, you select high quality print, turn off preserve editing capabilities, and turn on embed page thumbnails, and then save it. There's some reason they need it that way. I don't think I've ever been told what that reason is, but let's just stick with it. It's how it works for them in the back. They just need it that way. So then you turn off the guides, which are now off, and you save it again as a PDF, and you change the word with to without die line, and you just save it, and it should keep the defaults from earlier, so which it did. So you can just save again. And now we're almost done with the try for this mock-up brochure we're doing, or promo, but you need to highlight everything. And you'll have the like I already have these open, but you're all three plastics that aren't clear, which is the 15 ounce, the 24 ounce, and the SWB Try. Those will already be open if you've already been working, but just so you know where to get those, it's under brochures for tumblers, which you'll have hot linked on even on your computer, and then templates, and then new 2021 templates, and squared templates 2021. Those parent folders they had already. I made the 2021 ones, so it seems chaotic and confusing because it was even worse before. So this is as organized as I've been able to get it. But you're gonna open those files from within here. They're all Photoshop files. There's the 15 ounce, the 24 ounce, and if you scroll down, the SWB Try is there. And we're also, for the clear one, we're gonna open SWB Cropped and use only for white background, but I'll get to those when we get to that. So now that these are open and you've highlighted this without the guide, we're copying it into that Photoshop basically mock-up of the cup. And I start with the 24 ounce. It doesn't really matter which one you start with because you're copying into each one from the first one, but because this one's the largest, I guess that's why I start with it. Either one works. It's freezing up on me. Usually it does this because the file it's copying is big. So then you just resize it. And it should be sandwiched in between a white and a top layer and a white back layer. That's just how they originally made it. There's probably better ways for all of these little mock-ups to do it, but because these are already made and I'm just used to it, I just stuck with this method. Um, at some point I had planned to try to spruce all this up, but that, you never have free time to do all that. So this is basically all they need is the front. We don't show them the banner anymore. We used to on certain ones show the banner, but what happened is they started constantly coming back wanting to change everything. And so we just literally stopped showing it, and we've had no complaints. Like, they get the finished product and there's no complaints. So it was something about just seeing it made them want to constantly edit it and redo. So we just don't show it anymore. That was Brian's idea, and it was a good idea. So we're going to save it under the Z links, which is where all these JPEGs for the brochures will go. And you don't have to type the school name since it's under the parent folder that has a school name. So you can just immediately save it with the default template name in there. And then you go over here to the layer that has the, whoops, oh my gosh, that was an accident. You go over here to where you pasted it in and you duplicate, and you can select to put it on the 15 ounce over there, and then you duplicate it again and send it over to the try. And so now we can go to those and edit them just like we did for the first one. Whoops. It's, my computer's slow, so it's very tedious on this one. The computer that Noel used to use, which may be the one you end up using, is a bit faster and better than the one I'm using. So at the very least, this will go quicker for you. For me, it's like a snail's pace. It is frustratingly slow, but you just sort of, once again, you get used to the quirks of whatever system you're on. Whoops, I keep going into Adrenaline. So in MegaDough, Argonaut, Z-Links, change it to a JPEG, and then save it. Right now I'm just clicking with the mouse, but there are, you can use hotkeys for everything, whatever you have memorized that makes it easier for you. But once we get these, oh, you know what? I didn't mean to confuse. Don't worry about the try on this MegaDough promo, because on the final brochure, they're only using the 15 ounce and 24 ounce, and then instead of the try, they're actually using the clear bottle. So that's kind of the reason my brain did that, is because we use the try as the template for those plastics, even if we're not going to be using it in the final version. Because it's square, the other templates are curved, and so starting with a square one and editing it for the others was always a smoother process than starting with a warped, curved template. So yeah, we don't have to worry about the try. So now that we save those, we're going to move on to the clear plastic. But just so you can see, because I need to pause the video to go to lunch, but just so you can see how we use those, this is the promo flyer that we're making, and this is the template. I'll show you the folder while that's opening where you get this template at. It's in the MegaDough. Every distributor has a folder called brochures within it. So inside MegaDough, you go to brochures, and look, most of them will have a 2021 folder that I've made. If they're older ones that I haven't touched, then they're going to have old folders you'll have to dig around in. But for MegaDough, we have a 2021 folder, and you're going to select the one that says simple one-page flyer with SWB20. The one below that is only featuring just the SWB20. This has 4 items that includes the SWB20. So it's already open, but you would double click it to open it in InDesign. And you can see it's just a 4 item flyer is really all it is. And so the way we use these brochures is everything's just linked in and you can relink over it. So that's why we're saving them as JPEGs using a template, because they have to be the same exact size for the cropping to work automatically. So you click on it, hit Control D, and we're going to relink it to that JPEG that we just saved a second ago for the 24 ounce. So there it is. Now if you got the wrong item selected, it'll look weird, so you'll definitely know if you did click the wrong one. But it just relinks it in, and that's really all they want. These are just for the school to get an idea of what their full brochure would look like. So this is kind of like a, simplified, quick, supposed to be quick version, but because of this clear bottle and this, it does take a while to make it. I'm going to go ahead and change the name to Argonaut Mustangs. And we're going to need, let's go ahead and save the file. And I'm going to pause the video and come right back after lunch to continue. So we'll be back after, let's save this. And I save the template while I'm working on it in Z-Links. The final file will go in the top level folder. I usually abbreviate this to say like one page and then the school name. We probably need to change it to say promo or something, because I just know that one page is a promo, but for everyone's clarity in the future, I'll clean up the file names. So I'll be right back on the video. Okay. Hopefully this is still continuing to record. So where we left off was we added the 24 ounce after making the flat file for that. And we're going to be making the clear bottle next. One thing we need to do that I forgot about is in the email, when they give you the date, you always want to, generally on any promo for MegaDough, you want to add them to the web campaign tracker, which I have linked in my Excel, but to access that, you go to the U drive and then the logs folder, and then web campaign tracker is the file. So that's just where you access this spreadsheet. So the numbers go in order, and you just add a new one for a new school. And the abbreviated letters at the beginning vary by distributor, and you're just going to have to look up in the same spreadsheet whatever distributor it is, so that you can figure out what letters to use. On MegaDough, it's MDF. On some of the others, it's only 2 letters. So you definitely want to make sure you get that right. I think I may have mentioned this in one of the other training videos, but each time I do this, I'm doing a different type of item that we get in, so that, I may be repeating things, but just you'll know, what information you need or don't need, basically. This school is in California, and it's MegaDough, and the dates are April 12 and May 10th. Whoops. So I'll save that, and I usually copy the number to paste into the promo, because we do have to put the campaign, it's like an online number they access that with, so I can go ahead and close this. Should be 18861. And I'll go ahead and save just to have it in there. And now we can go make the clear file. And the reason I started with the plastic file is I can copy the logo and the banner over to the other template from here. So I'll go ahead and open the other template, which is in the brochures, templates, 2021 template, and then PDF flats folder. So there's the main part of the address. And it's the SWB20 template, the one that's not blank. The blank one is for personalized, so the regular one is the one we want. And we will run through this. I believe I went through this on another video, but we're just going through it again. So copy the logo and the banner, and that's all you need. And you can drag them or paste them over here. I paste usually, and I move them to the side because I'm only really just pulling color from the banner and the font. Even though these look similar, one has been resized, I can tell, so I'll just pull. You click on the font and then you use the eyedropper tool, which you can hit the letter I key to get or bring up. So now I copied the exact font size and type, but we still need to change what it says to Mustangs. And we can reposition that. I usually do that once the logo's up so I can kind of center it. We'll go ahead and change the banner, side banner, to match this. And now we don't need those. And I need to take the drop shadow off of this. You don't want any drop shadow on the clear file, since that would be printing on clear material and it would look strange. They don't like how it looks. They say it looks blurry. So now we've got the flat logo, and I don't believe this logo had any white behind it, which I sometimes stroke items with white, but this was all black, so it's just one solid piece. And we can just kind of center it. It's a little bit big. On the clear bottle, I divide this into thirds visually and put it in the center third, because if you go larger than a third of it, it looks so big on the bottle that it wraps, you know, halfway around it. So about a third of this white space is where you want this to fit. We could put a grid there, but some of the logos are off. They're kind of weird shapes, and so I just never have used a grid. I just eyeball it. This could be slightly, well, yeah, it's about right. I don't want to go any larger, honestly. It's pretty wide. So we'll leave it about where it is, and now all we need to do is change. I believe this is a dark blue, so I'm going to make it black. You know, I explained in the other video that this geometric scribble pattern is just one that the reps liked, and it's one that it's janky, and you can't just select it and change the color, because if you do that, it just fills it in like this. So you have to magic wand both the little border there, or shadow there, and the center, the main color. In this case, they said their main colors were gold, green, and black as secondary, which makes no sense to me because there's no green in their logo. But because of that, I added green to the background here, so I'll probably pull a similar green. Let's see if we can just get a hex code color from here. Maybe it needs to be kind of central between the dark and the light, so that's a little too bright. Maybe this one. Let's just pick one and see what it looks like. So I'm going to paste that hex code in over here. That's close enough to the other one. The hard part about this is we have no idea if green is what they want to be primary color or the orange, which they're calling gold. Their logo has more black than anything, so you know, they call that their secondary. But anyways, so this is basically the finished clear, but we need to make a spot color layer because of how our printer does this. It also gets mirrored before printing, but we don't have to do that within the file. That happens at the printing stage. So all we need to do right now is select all the color layer, which should be this bottom one. The top layer is just the crop line or die line. So select this whole layer, hit Control C to copy and Control F to copy it on top of itself. And once you do that, drag that copy up to the white layer. And then visually I turn off the bottom layer so all I see is the white layer. And everything's going to need to be turned into the white spot color, which in this template has already been created. And it's made to look magenta so you'll know what white is. But it's already set up as a spot color and it's already titled properly so the printer can find it. So all you need to do in this template, once you get to this middle layer that's labeled white with your copied file, is oh crap, hang on a second. When we copied everything in, the logo got put on a separate layer somehow. That might be my bad when I dragged it over. Let me backwards. Let me get back to where we had that green. Okay. So I just need to move this logo to this layer. Whoops. I mistakenly must have dragged it in there or pasted it in there. Let's make sure it's on top, and that's fine. So we're kind of back to where we were before we copied everything. So I'm copying it and pasting it and then dragging it up and then turning off the bottom layer. So now what we're doing is everything's got to be made to a white spot color, and anything overlapping something else can be cleared out because this is going to be behind the top layer. Meaning if this text is over this banner, I can delete the text because it really doesn't need, it won't matter if it's there. This is going to be all white. And anything that has a stroke, it needs to be, to simplify things, I just go to path, outline, stroke, and then you can go ahead and color it. You could also click unite in the Pathfinder to solidify it into one shape, but that's an extra step you don't absolutely have to do. You just outline the stroke and then make it the spot color, which is going to look magenta. So we need to select this, and on the logo, I don't think I had any strokes applied to it. Well, I did on the font, so I still needed to do that. So now that is one, or the outline, stroke is outlined, we can make it one unified object with the unite tool and recolor it as a spot color. And then we just need to do the slashy shapes. They called that slashy dots on the previous template it came from. We just removed the dots, so the shape is, they nicknamed it slashy. So if a rep speaks about it, that's what they're talking about. So now, once you have everything as a white spot color, you select the whole layer and you make sure the overprint fill has a check mark. And then once you turn this on, if you have under view overprint preview turned on, you should see a preview of how the white layer is going to show through, or how the color layer will lay over the white layer. So it's kind of like you're seeing through it on this because the white layer is on top. That's why anything that looks magenta, that's actually going to be white on the final product, and everything else is colors that are just shaded over with the magenta. So yeah, that's the final product for when they actually go to print it. It'll be mirrored so that the white prints behind the color, but that step at the time of printing. So now that it's done, we do need to save it, and then we're going to copy it into a template file. But for now, let's see. I'm going to save it. And now that we have the AI file saved, which I would have advised to do that first thing earlier, I just honestly forgot. That happens. Now we save it as a PDF, and these have to be saved differently from the try file, the swb try. So with this, it's still going to say with die line and without die line, but the default or preset you select is not going to be high quality like it is on the other one. It's going to be the X4 preset, and you don't have to change any other settings. You just select the X4 preset and then save it. And then I'm going to take the die line off, save it again with the word without die line, and that's it. That's going to be for them to print it later. So that one, it's done, but I'm turning all the layers except the color layer off so that we can copy it into the file we're going to make the mockup in. And in this case, it's kind of a janky setup because we need a transparent file. So it gets saved in this first, and then in the other file, we remove that outer white layer. Doing that in one file proved to be too complicated, so the quickest way I came up with was to use a 2-file system. There's got to be a better way. I just didn't have time. This was made in a rush when they first released this, and that was a couple months ago, and I just haven't had time to make a better template. But what happens is you paste the clear file in and you make sure it's sized properly, and we're gonna save it as a PDF so that we keep the transparency, or sorry, as a PNG so that we keep the transparency. And once we get it into that other file, we will remove the outer white layer and make that transparent. And by the way, the place to get these files is also in the squared templates folder that all those other Photoshop templates are in, and they're called SWB20 cropped and SWB20 use only for white background. So step 1 is the one we're on, which is the white background. These were things I made just for myself, so it's having someone else's eyes on them. I'll probably need to name things better and clean everything up. It's like I knew what I was doing, but no one else is probably going to know. But anyways, save it as a PNG in the Z-Links folder for the team that we're working on, which is Argonaut Mustangs. And I usually, in this case, we're not showing them the side view, only the front view. So I usually just add either FR for front or SD for side, just so I know what the file is. Because all we're doing with this is dragging it into the other file to be edited more. And like I said, the reason I do it this way is because I'm using that outer layers mask to select this vector art and crop it when I get it to the next stage. Because if I were to just paste the art into here where it's already transparent, then you would have to crop this manually somehow. It's just simpler and quicker for me to quickly save the file and drag it in here like this, and then use the mask the same way you would the other way. But it's, to me, I clicked the mask on the previous file I'm using as a template. You hit Control, or you click on this file that you just pasted in, hit Control Alt R to bring up the masking menu, and then you just invert it and hit OK, and then you click on Make a Mask with that selection that you just made, So now that's done, and I just delete this, and we're good to go. So that's why I have this 2-file system. We could try to make it all happen in one file, but to me it's just visually quicker and easier to do it that way. If there is a better way, I'll gladly use that method. But this is just how I came up with it, because we've never had to do transparent files on these brochures before, and this was something I just threw together last second when they came out with that new plastic bottle a couple months ago. So we've got basically the final file. It still needs to be a PNG, and I still add the FR just so I know it's the front. And now that we have that done, we're just going to go ahead and add it to the promo flyer, and you just relink it the same way we did with the other, which is select it and hit Control D and find the file that you just made. And so all of that work was just so we can show this as transparent, because if we put white behind it, they don't understand that it's transparent. So all of that was just for this, basically. We've got the 2 color things done that take the longest. So now all we need to do is make the HSBC bottle and the 20 ounce. So, whoops. So the text by default on, let's see. So the HSBC, I was saying, I had to pause the video real quick, but what I was saying is these on the MegaDough promo, and generally MegaDough has what I would call the vertical. It's basically the team name typed out vertically. That's our regular way of engraving, and then there's a way called rotary, which has to do with how the machine burns it. It rotates. Those are the ones that look horizontal, and they're usually larger, wider looking logos. So that's the 2 different ones, which by the time you see this video you probably already know that, but just so you know, that's the difference. And on MegaDough, they generally by default get this vertical style. So the easiest way to open that and edit one, for me, I just hold Alt and double click on within the Photoshop file on that layer that has that, and that will open it in Illustrator. So I'm double clicking while holding Alt. So now we can just edit this other one that was linked into the template. And if there's a font that I can pull from, I usually do that. In this case, the font's hovering over the logo, but we can still get away with, I'm going to try magic wanding the orange, and that'll let me just copy. And I can paste it over here and turn it black, basically. Whoops, it pulled all kinds of stuff. So we'll delete that extra junk. There's a million ways to, do things, and if you prefer one way over another, that's totally fine. This is just how I would quickly get this over here and make sure it looks the same as the logo version. So now we've got a basically finished vector version of the logo. I don't know what that dot is, but I'm going to delete it. Let's see if there's anything else extra laying around. Nope. Okay, so I'll just group it. And now, as long as it's black, that's all we needed, and we can delete the other one. And even though this looks horizontal, when we relink it in, it'll be vertical. That's the reason for all these templates, basically, is so we can relink everything in and save a little bit of time of having to reposition. If we did each one manually, it would just add extra work time. So you can use align to center it. It doesn't have to be perfect within the red line, because that doesn't affect how they actually etch it. Like I said earlier, these are really just for the mock-ups, but it does need to be somewhat centered. So MegaDough, Argonaut, and these get saved in the top layer folder for each team. because these are what they look for when they go to etch it into the actual products. So I'm saving it up here at the top level. And when we make the final brochure, which 99% of the time they do, there will need to be a gray version of this. So because it's already open, I usually go ahead and save the gray. And I use the default gray palette, and it's the fifth one over from black. Or, well, fourth one over from the black, but it's the fifth gray, basically. So it's number 60 on the K, basically, for CMYK. But then I save that as the same file name but with gray next to it, or GRY for short. And that'll come into use later, so it's more of a thinking ahead kind of thing. So we have that made, and we don't need these open anymore. So I'll go ahead and close them. Oh, they're already saved, so I make sure not to save any changes because I might have moved something around. So now we just link that file we just made into here, and that way we can save a mock-up JPEG of it. Use the black for all these. The gray is only going to be for the brochure later. So that's basically it. We can go ahead and save it as a JPEG. And then relink it into the file, the promo. Now I usually make all of this first and then go link them in, but I've just been doing them one at a time to show you, where they go when we make this. You can do the order of things however you want, as long as the end result is that it gets done. For the color, sometimes we match this to whatever the team colors are, if it's blue or something, but we don't have a green, so at least not one that matches that green, so I'm just going to leave it black. And if you do change the color, you need to change the lettering here from BK to whatever the abbreviation is for your color. Like our regular blue is called royal blue, so it would be RB, or RD for red. You'll memorize those over time. So we just need to make a black 20 ounce, which I already had. All these files, remember, are in that template folder. I don't have the 20 ounce open, so I need to go there and open it. And it's the one that says TUM20 BK and color layers. That has all the layers in one file. These were all made before I worked here, so they're very old and archaic, but we just, that's our system, and we continue to use it, so you just get used to it over time. So there's our EPS file, and it's going to be black, so you just turn off all other color layers and then find the black layer. There's actually, the background layer is not fully black, it's like a poorly lit black, so you want to find that flat black layer and save it as a JPEG. And I usually take off the extra text just so it says BK. That's personal preference. Doesn't matter really. And now we're ready to link the final thing in. Control D to link in. And there we go. So this is done. We've already changed the number and the name. And I go ahead and save one more time. And then you're going to export. Because this is just sort of the template file. The final PDF you have to export to PDF. And that also goes in this top level folder for the team. So in this layer or folder level, I'm going to save the PDF. Click save, and you don't have to worry about changing anything, and you just export it. And up in the, you'll see it exporting up near the middle of the menu in InDesign. Once that's done, you can just immediately email it. So all of that was just to get this end result PDF that we're sending to them. and they'll probably want the full brochure. So when they come back with that, we'll get an email about it, and that's when you finish everything as a brochure, a 4-page brochure. And that's basically it. And since you did make some things for this, at least you won't have to make those over again for the 4-page brochure. So that's one benefit to those promos. I'm going to delete the email now that it's done. And that's it. So I'll make other videos for the other things. See you in the next video.